Welcome back to the Tara Palmeri show. So the administration denies that they were going to have their top law enforcement officials, Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, and the Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, meet with the Vice President, JD Vance, at his house, with the FBI Director, Kash Patel, and the Chief of Staff to the President, Susie Wiles, to talk about how to change the narrative on this Epstein story that continues to dog them. Same time, news breaks from ABC that Ghislaine says that Donald Trump had nothing to do with the Epstein case at all. She didn't remember him being around at all. Trafficked, there's nothing bad, but she has anything to say about him. Same woman who's asking him for a pardon, by the way, after, she's been indicted and she's been accused of she's been charged with perjury, by the way, and didn't take the stand in defense of her own case. Okay. So that's Ghislaine Maxwell, who wants a pardon, saying the president did no wrong. And now the White House is trying to figure out what to do. Do we release the tape, the conversation with her and Todd Blanche? Should we trust that tape? Has it been edited? Is the full conversation? What happened when they weren't taping? What did she say? What is she going to get in exchange for that, by the way? We're going to see Ghislaine Maxwell in house arrest soon. We know something, though. Pam Bondi told President Trump he is, in fact, in the files, but Ghislaine Maxwell doesn't recall. The top of the pyramid scheme, the woman who helped run one of the largest sex trafficking empires of our time, honestly, yeah. But no, the White House denies that they were meeting tonight now, after reports said that they were planning to meet. Now it's off. JD Vance said he corrected that reporter who said that they would be possibly meeting at his home to fix the narrative. Of course, if they were meeting, it would look pretty corrupt, right? The kind of corrupt that MAGA does not like. A cabal of elites trying to change the narrative for the little people who just want to know what's really happening. Don Lemon and I discuss all of this. We talk about the breaking news. He even calls me back on during the live show when it turns out that meeting's off. It's been canceled, or perhaps was never going to happen at all. I don't know if I really trust any of this stuff coming out of this administration. After all, they're the ones who said there are no third-party conspirators. This is the administration that said there's a list and then said there's no list. Said there's no evidence of blackmail or anything, even though they have 300 gigabytes of files they're just sitting on. So yeah, we should believe them on this case.
Is Vice President Vance hosting a gathering this evening to talk about how to respond to the Epstein situation?
Is he working on what?
Is he hosting some kind of gathering of top advisors this evening to talk about how to respond to the Epstein situation?
I don't know. I could ask you that question. I don't know of it, but I think here's the man right here.
I saw a report today, and it's completely fake news. We're not meeting to talk about the Epstein situation, and I think the reporter who reported it needs to get better sources.
Look, the whole thing is a hoax. It's put out by the Democrats because we've had the most successful 6 months in the history of our country. And that's just a way of trying to divert attention to something that's total bullshit. Okay?
For now, this is what they have to say. I'll let you decide. And then take a listen to my conversation with Don Lemon, where I go into a lot of my deep reporting.
Ghislaine Maxwell told the DOJ Trump never did anything concerning around her. That's what sources are saying. Hi, Tara Palmeri. How you doing?
Hey, Don, how are you?
I'm great. Tara Palmeri is a veteran journalist, the author of The Red Letter on Substack, and the host of the Tara Palmeri Show here on YouTube. And also, she's written about it on Substack and written about it before. She's interviewed a lot of folks involved in this. So, Tara,
yeah, I did 2 podcasts. I spent 2 years investigating this with Julie K. Brown, the woman who broke the story open. So I know a lot about it.
So, Tara, we'll talk about this emergency. We're calling it emergency summit. But right now, let's talk about the sources. When they say sources, according to sources, someone leaked this to journalists so that they could spread it. Oh, there's nothing wrong. And what say you? Is it working? Is it backfiring? It's kind of a yawn. When I heard about it, I was like, I
don't know, Don. I was talking to my producer, Eric, and he's pretty MAGA, and he thinks it's scandalous especially this
Really?
Epstein summit. Yeah, he does. He voted for Trump, and he thinks the Epstein summit at the White House, where JD Vance, Kash Patel, one of the top, the person who was calling for the Epstein files to be released, Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, Pam Bondi, who promised to release the files, Attorney General, Todd Blanche, Deputy Attorney General, they're all getting together and they're trying to figure out how to spin the narrative to work for them. Should they release the tapes? Should they do a press conference? Should they go on Joe Rogan?
I think that's a bad idea, Tara, for them to release those tapes. And also, let's just you and I talk, and we'll get into the details here. Let's think about it. We've been involved in the media a long time. You've been covering this for 2 years, and if you've been covering it for this long,
well, more than 2 years, but it took 2 years to do those pods. But yeah, I've been covering it for a long time. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, and it started the hysteria around it basically came from the right. Donald Trump mentioned this. It was the first, to our knowledge, and at least to the reporting that I've seen, to mention it in a public arena when being questioned. I don't know if it was I'm not sure what it was, but he was at some political event on stage, and they asked him about it. And Jeffrey Epstein, and he's the first one to sort of bring it up. No, they didn't even ask him. He brought it up.
Yeah, so, he volunteered it, but it was always it was out there. It's just that he volunteered. He weaponized it first in politics.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering how does Ghislaine Maxwell, considering, can we put up her charges, please? Look, Ghislaine Maxwell, this is what she was tried and convicted of. One of them was perjury, conspiracy to entice individuals under the age of 17 to travel interstate, engage in whatever illegal activity. Enticement of an individual, Jane Doe, under the age of conspiracy. That was not guilty. Sorry. Guilty of the first one, conspiracy to entice, conspiracy to transport individuals under the age of 17 in the intent of a criminal essay, transportation of an individual under, and all of these issues found guilty of.
Yeah.
And I think there was a perjury. Am I right? Was there a perjury thing in there as well?
That was in a civil case against Virginia Giuffre.
So where's the credibility is what I'm asking. And how is MAGA going to believe this?
And also, she refused to testify in this trial because she knew she couldn't stand on cross-examination. She had her chance. She could have told the world what she wanted to say, but she chose not to. She's been silent up until now. She hasn't even done an interview. But we're supposed to trust a one-on-one with her and the number 2 in the Justice Department and her lawyers just talking. And who knows how much of that conversation we're even going to get. I mean, obviously, if she wants to be pardoned by Trump, which is the end goal, that's what her family has explicitly asked for. And President Trump has said he can do it. Why in any way would she implicate the president?
Yeah.
She is not a credible source.
Yeah, but Tara, to your point, if you were facing 20 years and you had a president or someone, an attorney or whatever, that was looking for help and you could help them by not saying anything or shutting up, what would you do? I wouldn't want to spend 20 years. I'm just saying. What do you expect? She
deserved more than 20 years, though. I mean, that was pretty light considering.
Yeah.
And considering that she was actually involved in the sexual molestation of these women, I mean, of girls, now women, but she was the one who took off Virginia Giuffre's panties and then touched her when she came into the house. She was the one who fondled 16-year-old Annie Farmer's breasts. I mean, that is pedophilia. Just because it's a woman, it doesn't make it any different.
Yeah. And this is awful. So back to you said you have a friend who is a MAGA voter. You know someone who is a MAGA voter, and I'm
my producer. Yeah, he's a MAGA voter.
Talk to me more about that, because one would think that they would just say, what the hell, what the hell, just release the files, because they were hoping that it was, or thinking that it was a Democrat plot, as they say, a la Pizzagate.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of part of the reason why, Eric's great, but it's really great to have someone on the team that has that perspective. I want to know, what's riling up the president's base. I mean, that is the power that he derives. That is how he stays in power, right? Is his political base. And he said he thinks it's a scandal. I mean, this is exactly what they were railing against. If not, it was always about a cabal of elites that could get away with things, a two-tier justice system. Now, of course, these cabal of elites were always Democrats in their eyes, not the president, who was a Democrat then when he was friends with Jeffrey Epstein, by the way, during the height of Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking operation. But, this is the action of the deep state in work, collusion between top officials about how to control a narrative, deciding what to release, what shows to go on, how to make sure the public sees it our way. This is big government in action. And, that is not what they voted for. They voted when Kash Patel said on podcasts, we're going to release the files. They voted when JD Vance said, we're going to release the Epstein files. They voted when Pam Bondi said that. That's who they voted for. Wait, breaking news? Okay, yeah, she spoke. Sorry, I thought there was something else. Yeah, so of course she said that. I mean, to me, that is the answer that we always thought we were going to get. And I was talking to one of the victims yesterday because I text with them all the time, survivors, Maria Farmer, and she was telling me, I have nightmares that Ghislaine Maxwell is going to go from this prison camp. She was a sex offender, okay? A sex offender now in a prison camp to house arrest. I mean, that's the next step, right? Or just a pure pardon. And to me, the way I see this all playing it out is Trump pardons Ghislaine, Diddy, George Santos one day. The moral lines are all blurred. There's so much outrage. It just makes such a firestorm that it's just like almost a combustion. And then he hopes it goes away that way.
Yeah. So when I was saying, back to the question, because I lost my train of thought a little bit, but when I was asking you about the MAGA folks and what they're thinking, to me, I said it was a yawn. I think it's important. Don't get me wrong. I think it's an important story I'm covering. I believe Epstein. This is the story. As you are, an extraordinary journalist, you somehow manage to know. You have a great editorial compass. You know the stories to do, and you have been covering this. But so I'm wondering. There was no outrage. There was no texting. There were no alerts. I mean, for me, of people going, oh my gosh, Ghislaine Maxwell said that Donald Trump did nothing. You libs are stupid. See, so it's a yawn.
Did you get those texts? I didn't know you got those texts.
Yeah, if there's something that happens, they're like, oh God, they moved her to a facility, done. Oh my gosh, can you believe this? Now she's in Club Med. They're gunning for a pardon when that happened. But this, nothing. I got crickets. And so that's why I'm wondering so much about how MAGA world, because they cannot continue to make excuses. They will, but I don't see how they do.
Yeah, no, I think you're making a lot of really good points. But I just think this is the inevitable creep. I mean, I was talking to my grandmother the other day, my babcia, I love her, but she was saying to me, I mean, she grew up in Soviet Poland, okay? She's terrified of Putin. I mean, she knows what it's like to grow up in like a really, an oppressive regime. And she said, of course, Ghislaine Maxwell's going to get out, Tara. Don't you see it? I think a lot of people are jaded. I think they expect this to happen at this point. She's already been moved to another prison facility. She's speaking to the number 2 person in the Justice Department, our top law enforcement official, and in secret. Everything about this reeks of corruption. And so I think people are at this point jaded. If you said tomorrow she's pardoned, maybe a 24, 48-hour news cycle. And the victims know it's happening. And that's why they started sending out emails, not emails, but letters to the judges. They're trying to stop this from happening again because this keeps happening to them over and over and over again. First, it was the sweetheart deal with Jeffrey Epstein where co-conspirators, named and unnamed, wouldn't be prosecuted. Who was that? It was Ghislaine, who, and others, obviously, the Johns and the many assistants who were needed to run one of the largest sex trafficking operations in history. And so it just seems so obvious that every day is another story about Ghislaine inching towards freedom and Donald Trump being, I guess, in his eyes, vindicated. But I think anyone with 2 brain cells knows that's not the truth, that this was a woman who is clearly eager to get out of prison and will say anything it takes to get out of prison. Think about this. This is someone who grew up on yachts and helicopters. Her father owned the New York Daily News and the Daily Mirror and MTV Europe and Macmillan Press. She would compare her to being the daughter of a cross between Donald Trump and Rupert Murdoch. That is how big of a family her father was, Robert Maxwell. When he died, he was buried in the Mount of Olives in Israel, which is for prime ministers, kings, princes, okay? So, she's the reason that Epstein knew princes. She's the reason that Epstein knew the Clintons. She's the reason that Epstein knew Donald Trump. She met Donald Trump through her father when she was young. She was trying to sell corporate gifts to him. So she is the person that got this dropout math teacher in these circles. Okay. And she's the one who also brought the girls in. She is everything in this operation. She is the core of it. And so I just think that we are this idea that she could be a victim or that she's honorable for speaking. It's exasperating to anyone who knows the extent of the evil and betrayal that she enacted on these poor girls.
Well, look, excellent point. And I think you're right about people are like, of course, when I go out to interview people, remember when dropped Donald Trump's name is in the Epstein files. And then when I ask people, are you surprised? They're like, no. Like, what? Why are you asking me that question? Of course his name is in the Epstein files. Do you think he did something? This is their opinion. Yes. Again, this is an opinion. And so what I sit in front of these cameras and whenever I'm in front of the camera I try not to do that thing that so many people do, which is to be so guarded about what you say that it comes off as fake, right? To say the same thing in the green room or on the pre-call that I say on the thing. And that doesn't always happen. So, and I look at what's happening in the media many times is that people they have to pretend in these conversations that, well, we can't do this. Maybe, perhaps there's this, perhaps there's that. Oh my gosh, what if, when people at home are going, what are you guys doing? Of course. The obvious answer, it is Occam's razor. The obvious answer is the answer to all of this. And even I think the White House is tone deaf on this. If they're thinking that they can change minds by anything other than not releasing the Epstein file, I think that they are delusional. If they think, according to the reporting, we can put that up, Tara, that Joe Rogan somehow, they're trying to get Joe Rogan involved.
Yeah, I think that Joe Rogan will look silly if Joe Rogan takes the bait. He's going to look like he's going to look silly. He's going to look like he's being used by them. I wouldn't go near this story. Not near the story. Stay on the story. I wouldn't go near the administration's narrative on this story because they have not been reliable actors in this story. You cannot be a reliable actor in a story in which the president is in the files and you refuse to release the files. You cannot be a reliable actor in this story in which you say for a long time there's an Epstein list and then say there is no list. And by the way, I had been long saying this even before Pam Bondi came out, that there was no one sheet of paper by Epstein, that all the victims had lists of men that they were trafficked to. And Epstein knew all the men that he trafficked women to. He didn't need to put it on a piece of paper. He was much more sophisticated than that. But all of it, that there are no third parties, no blackmail was involved. They have consistently been untruthful in this story. And so to give him a platform is almost insanity. I think the only thing you could possibly do, put Todd Blanche up there before a firing line of press and have every single last question answered.
And release the Epstein files.
Oh yeah, that too. I mean, that's a given. Yes, and release the Epstein, but not all redacted. I don't want to see black paper pages, by the way.
Right. Well, when they give that excuse, by the way, if you're watching, hit the thumbs up. We appreciate it. It affects the algorithm. Someone in the chat just reminded me of that. So make sure you do that, like and subscribe. We're out here, Tara and I are out here in these independent streets, and we rely on your generosity and that you trust us enough that you want us to continue to bring you the information. So make sure you hit the like, thumbs up, subscribe to both of our channels. Okay, so Tara, you bring up again more good points about this. The only thing that will change the narrative, if it is changeable, is Todd Blanche answering questions and, of course, releasing the Epstein files. We're not anywhere near that. I have been saying, I'm not sure if this is a thing that takes him down, although I'm leaning towards that, but it's definitely a thing that breaks the MAGA spell. And I don't know if you agree with that or not.
Yeah. I mean, I think I was talking to Eric about this, and he actually is sending me messages because he's watching this. And he said that they wouldn't be out there right now trying to fix the messaging if they didn't think that MAGA was falling in line. I think they know that MAGA is not falling in line. And if they They wouldn't need these messengers. They wouldn't need to shepherd the base right now. And by nature of MAGA, by the way, these are people, a lot of them former Bernie bros. These are a lot of independents. These are people who don't really they're just not your typical voter. They are burn it all down independent types. And so, this is why it's going to be hard to convince them that you're being honest with them. And it's going to take a lot more than, Todd Blanche and a 30-minute conversation being released. And by the way, I mean, that even the way they showed the footage of that cell. Well, no, they didn't even have the footage of the cell. The hallway in front of the cell. Show us the footage of the cell. And then a minute is missing. It's just everything has been so shady about this case.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just
go on. Tell me, does he still support? Does he still your producer's MAGA? Does he still support Donald Trump?
I don't know. I'm sure he does. But it's
he
like,
does?
I mean, I think about a lot of people I talk to that voted for Trump. They're still reluctant to say. They'll say to me, "Yeah, I voted for Trump. I'm not happy with him right now, but I could have never voted for Kamala." And that's what they always say to me. So I don't know. I mean, that's the vibe I get. I think if there was another populist leader right now, they could probably win that person over, win that entire win his base over right now. But I don't see that person. Certainly Elon Musk is not that populist leader. He's an elitist tech bro. Trump's I think this is his Achilles heel, honestly.
Do you think I'm leaning towards it could take him down? I didn't think so in the beginning, but it could because they're playing it all wrong. They're kind of, in a weird way, they're kind of acting like the Democrats, like they don't understand what's going on out in the world. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, Tara, I want to talk to you about the interviews that you've done, some of them, because I think people need to know just how in depth and how much you've been covering this, and then also what is happening out in the world in the media. I want to hear from Michael Wolff and your reporting as well. So can we just put up her reporting real quickly? This is Tara's her Substack, where she writes about her interviews with, do we have it up now? There we go. What MAGA doesn't know about Ghislaine Maxwell.
I think the way you said it the first time is probably right. What MAGA doesn't want to know about Ghislaine Maxwell.
Ghislaine Maxwell. And it starts with us saying, in this edition, I share an exclusive interview from my reporting journey with Virginia Giuffre for Broken, Jeffrey Epstein, a rare conversation with a critical insider who witnessed the disturbing dynamic between Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein up close. We'll talk to her about her reporting. We'll get more information on what people are saying, what biographer Michael Wolff is hearing. Some of this is jaw-dropping and shocking. But before we get to that, we are going to take you inside of this emergency summit that is going to happen at the Vice President's house tonight. So thank you, sponsors. We appreciate it. So we're back now with Tara Palmeri. Tara, I think you're the ultimate. You're the I don't want to be offensive, but I think you're the Epstein whisperer for this Epstein story whisperer. I think that you have the best information. So let's talk about this summit. Let's put it up. This was a CNN story this morning reporting that there was going to be this dinner at the White House. Top Trump officials will discuss Epstein's strategy at a Wednesday dinner hosted by the Vice President, JD Vance. It sounds like a bad idea to me, but go on. In this, what are they going to discuss? And if you scroll through this, it'll show you the people. And Tara mentioned that these are the people who are involved in all of this. Susie Wiles, JD Vance, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and Todd Blanche. Go on.
It's just gross. I mean, these people, at least Pam Bondi, JD Vance, and Kash Patel made promises to the American people that they would release the files. And now they're talking about, well, how do we cover this up so we can get rid of this? What are we going to do? How do we, well, this is like corruption at the highest level. I feel for the victims, honestly. Those are the people I feel for because I talk to them every day and I know that they know the stories and they know the case isn't closed.
Yeah.
And when I
Yeah.
checked in with my senior law enforcement sources before Pam Bondi came out and said case closed, they told me, yeah, we have a lot. We're sitting on tons of evidence, like 300 gigabytes of evidence. Okay.
Yeah.
Evidence, like surveillance, photos, footage. What? And that evidence is just useless. There's no case. There's no men. There's no Johns. This is one of the largest sex trafficking operations of our time. 1,000 victims. And you're going to say the case is closed with one person going to prison and now in a camp, now in a prison camp where, Elizabeth Holmes is hanging out.
Yeah. So Tara, and I screwed up because I didn't realize that you had an heart out. That's my fault. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I can talk a little longer about this.
Yeah. Because I want to talk about your reporting then. I want to put your Substack back up that you have this reporting and then any other new reporting. And so you tell me where you want to go with your reporting and what do you want to point out?
I just wanted to, I went through a lot of my reporting over the years for the two podcasts and broke in Jeffrey Epstein and Power the Maxwells. Now I have my own show, the Tara Palmeri Show, but I was going back over it and I really spoke to a lot of Ghislaine's friends and the people that worked for her father and the people who were in her life. And I really wanted to understand the psychology of this person, this really dark profile of a woman who would actually engage in pedophilia, recruit children 3 per day for Epstein and engage in it herself. And it all led back to her father. And, so many of the stories that I was told, her father would abuse her. He was a dark man. When she was younger, she had an eating disorder. He would lock her out of the kitchen. He would humiliate her. And he was also, he would dehumanize people too. I mean, when he got on his helicopter, he would pee off the side of the building onto people. He would throw his food on the floor for people to...
What?
Yeah, he would throw his food. This is according to his assistant who I interviewed. He would throw his food on the side off the and have people pick it up. He would use the hand towels to wipe his behind when he was in the bathroom and leave it for people. He was a foul human being, okay? He did not care about humans. He screamed at them all of the time. I heard that when he was interviewing people, he often just would, if he didn't like them, he'd stop the interview and drop them off on the side of the highway. Like and this is the person who she adored. And when he died mysteriously off the side of a yacht named the Lady Ghislaine after his favorite child, Ghislaine, he left her nothing. And Ghislaine was crying, according to her friends, that she was broke. She was broke and she was living in a 1-bedroom apartment on the Upper East Side. And she was a socialite living in London. And she just desperately wanted to have what she lost back. And then she finds Epstein. And the only way to keep Epstein happy is to find these 3 girls per day. And then she can still fly around in helicopters and go to private islands and hang out with princes. And that was the price she paid for the life she wanted. And I think people forget that. Also, and like in her relationship with her father, where she was treated terribly, Jeffrey also treated her really bad. She used to cry to her friends about it. He would belittle her, call her stupid, and she settled for breadcrumbs. Like, she loved him and he had no interest in her. And in one of the interviews that I did with the houseman, Juan Alessi, it's a very dark, disturbing interview, by the way. He had never spoken to the press before until he spoke to me in 2020. And Virginia Giuffre, we were traveling together when he talked to us, and he recalls being in the car with her when she found Virginia, by the way, at Mar-a-Lago. It was Juan who was driving the car that day. And he said when he saw Virginia Giuffre, he thought, oh, she's going to end up back at the house. But he recalled that Ghislaine would sometimes cry when she drove around looking for these girls. She was a dark, twisted woman. She said, I want to leave Jeffrey, but I can't. And then we find out later that, she sued Jeffrey's estate, saying he had promised to always cover her financial bills. And it's a deep, dark story. She's a twisted person. If you thought that 50th birthday card party thing was depraved, for the 40th birthday, she had a song written that was about Epstein's 24-hour erections and schoolgirl crushes, and they sang it in front of everybody at a party, in front of very, esteemed people, business leaders, and she was a part of grooming the elites and the children. This is not a person who should be back on the streets. So that's all I'm saying in terms of the idea of a pardon.
Do you think that? I mean, great, you're a wealth of knowledge about this. Do you think the administration knows that? I mean, Donald Trump certainly knows some of that because he was friends with him. Jeffrey Epstein
you
said he
couldn't.
considered that he was his
Yeah.
best friend at one point. So do you think that the administration and the people who are invested, do you think they know that all of this that's in the Epstein files about Ghislaine?
Oh gosh, yeah. Glenn went to prison for 20 years, and that was light. Because they were only looking to investigate her for a short period of time, and it would be impossible not to know. I remember Virginia saying, if you're walking in their house, there's no way you didn't know there was something weird about it because there were pictures of naked girls all over the place. Glenn would take the pictures often. A lot of the girls were hanging around the pool naked. And Jeffrey wanted these girls to look like children, and they were children. If they weren't adults, they looked like children. And it's just, and Ghislaine thought it was funny. And according to her friend, Christina Oxenberg, who I quoted in this because I interviewed, she was, in the podcast, Ghislaine, when she asked Ghislaine, like, who are these girls? Ghislaine goes, they are nothing. They are trash. That is how she viewed them. It's manipulative. It's dark. It's criminal. This is not someone who got swept up in it as they want to portray. And Trump knew her for a long time. He knew her since her early days through her father when he owned the New York Daily News. So I find all of this to be not plausible, that they could possibly try to paint her in any way as a victim, or in any way innocent, or just the scapegoat. This was a massive criminal operation. Massive. Jeffrey could not have done this on his own.
Yeah, and so again, I'm sure that the investigators knew, but I'm just wondering if the new folks. It's got to be it's in the files. The evidence is all there, and they know this, and they're still doing it. And they're still doing it. It's just sick. That's why I think the more this goes on, Tara, I really think that this could. You said it's his Achilles heel. It could take him down. And do you think they'll ever release the files?
Oh, I don't know. Probably not. I don't believe it so. I think they're going to go after people like us for talking about it before they do that.
Do you think that this will bring him down?
I don't know. I mean, it depends on his base and if they are with him. That's the only thing that has power over him is politics. That's
Where do we get your reporting? This is good. Go to Substack and read this. I'm telling you, Tara's a great reporter. She has a great channel on YouTube, and she also has a great Substack. So what is your Substack?
You can go to tarapalmeri.com. That's TARAPALMERI.com. It's called The Red Letter, but I have been investigating this story for a long time. I'm still doing a lot of work on it. I'm trying to continue following the leads that I've had. If you listen to the podcast that I've done in the past, you can tell that I told the stories through the eyes of the survivors, always stayed in touch with them. And I spent a lot of time digging into Ghislaine, her family, her background. I've done probably hundreds and hundreds of interviews on this, and I've been on it for years when nobody really cared. But, I just kind of always felt like it was an unfinished story. And I spoke to Virginia before she died, a few months before she died. And actually, when Pam Bondi put out that binder full of classified documents that were really just Virginia's files that were public. And, she was upset because she actually hoped, she was kind of Trumpy, I think. Maybe she was hopeful.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know I wouldn't say Trumpy, but she was at least hopeful that the administration would do the right thing, because Epstein was arrested during his first term. So she was hopeful. And actually Elon Musk DM'd her and said that he would do something about it. And
wait. Say again? What?
Yeah, Virginia DM'd with Elon Musk, and Elon told her he would release the files. And so, and she met Donald Trump through Epstein, actually. But she said he was polite, and she wasn't trafficked to him, and she didn't know of anyone. But, I felt sad for her, because if you actually listen to the show, I wish I could explain her. She was someone who was around so much darkness and yet saw so much light, and was just, she always kind of hoped people would do the right thing. Whereas I was so jaded. And every time we talked to people who were witnesses and we got them to talk, And by the way, the FBI was following us around while we were doing this. It was insane. Like they literally called Juan while we were interviewing. It's all on tape. Yeah. And like her phone blew up, like from the cell phone towers pinging us. She was so hopeful. And I was not. Maybe I'm a jaded journalist, but I looked at all these people and I was just like, you chauffeured children around? Like, this is what you did? You know Virginia, you know what she went through, and you were adult at the time. And now, and by the way, like Epstein took care of all of his employees. They all live in these like mini mansions now. It's very eerie, and they don't want to talk. And they all live in the same kind of like little mansions on golf courses and gated communities. And that's how he kept them quiet, because everybody who worked for him knew what he was doing was disgusting. So how do you keep people quiet? You pay them off. It was disgusting. But yeah, she was so hopeful. I like, it was incredible to me. And I feel sad that she died, that she killed herself. I feel like the story it needs to keep going, because the victims really haven't gotten any justice. And if you take Ghislaine out and you free her, this will be so re-traumatizing. It's already been re-traumatizing for them.
Thank you, Tara. I mean, I just sat here and listened to you. This is great. I had so many clips and notes that I wanted, and I just talked to you. I mean, it makes me sad, though. It just really makes me sad for the victims. And obviously, I'm a survivor, so this means a lot to me. But just hearing it is awful. But also, the American people deserve to know. I mean, they deserve to know. And you're doing a great job.
I think it's definitely what the survivors want it. Virginia wanted it. Annie Farmer wants it. Maria Farmer wants it. Marika Charchuni wanted. They want everyone to know what's in those files. They're tired of the two-tier justice system. So I hope somebody does the right thing. I hope the truth gets out somehow. Maybe someone will leak it.
Maybe. You never know. I don't know how anyone could live. I just can't see how anyone could live with themselves and by hiding information like this, or not being forthcoming. I just don't get it. I don't get it. Thank you, Tara. Keep up the great work. Okay.
You. Bye. Thanks,
We appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Absolutely. Tara Palmeri, just a great reporter. And again, you got to check out her channel and check out what she does. As soon as you hung up, Tara.
You want to know what, Don?
News.
You know who's watching you right now? Maria Farmer, who, by the way, was one of the first women to call the FBI in 1996 when she
Maria,
was a girl.
come on the show. I would love to interview you. I'm a survivor, not of Epstein, but yes, please come on.
Yeah, she's amazing. She was texting me saying, Tara, Don wants you back on the show. And I was like, okay, I'll get back on. And obviously your producer texted me, my producer who's watching, but so she's amazing. But yeah, she was saying, get back on there. I mean, it's important for us to keep the conversation going for her. I mean, she has been I am so in awe of her and Annie, her sister, because they have been out there everywhere. And this is a really scary story to be out there covering. And, there are so many powerful people involved. So many people want them to go away, and they have not stopped since 1996. They deserve so much credit. I mean, Annie testified in the case against Maxwell. But yes, this cancellation. Why am I not surprised? You're colluding in the vice president's house about what to do about the Epstein fallout. This is horrible. It looks like it's a cover up on top of a cover up on top of a cover up on top of, does it get any worse?
No, I think it gets worse for them, because now they're like, what are we going to do? Now, I think that they thought would be their trump card, pun not intended, but it fits. I think what they thought would be their trump card turns out to be a dumb move. They thought Ghislaine Maxwell, and if they got in there and they spoke to her, that perhaps it would exonerate the president in some way. However, I do think that they're hearing one thing from Donald Trump, and they are reading the files. He's telling them it's fake or whatever, the Biden folks, and they don't believe that. I'm sure they don't believe it. That's just messaging. But I think they were wondering just what she knew, because they weren't sure what to believe, right? They wanted the narrative to be a certain way. So they wanted to go in and interview her. And now that they have interviewed her, and this was going to be their trump card, nobody's believing it, no matter what they say about it. I think that they backed themselves into a corner. I think they're up shit creek without a paddle.
Yeah, I think they thought they could flood the zone, and it's just not working. Like there's
so you're
something.
not surprised by the breaking news. Go on. Sorry, there's something.
No, I am. I mean, it almost makes it worse, right?
Yeah.
It's like acknowledging how bad it looks. We all see it. It's just, yeah. They've dug themselves a hole, man. But the hole is the only way out and they're dirty. They're in the dirt. They're in the mud now. Like you can't get out. You need some honesty, and the honesty is not coming through a woman who was convicted of who is serving time for 20 years. Suddenly she is a reliable source. No. And when Comer said he subpoenaed, the former law enforcement officials, there's so many more people he could be subpoenaing, by the way, people who actually worked on the case, like Alex Acosta and the woman, Marie Villafana, the prosecutor in his office, who put together 60 federal charges against Epstein that dropped down to 0. She wasn't called. And most importantly, they didn't subpoena any of the victims. Well, people don't want to hear from them. They don't want to hear from the survivors. They should be talking before Congress. They should tell the story. The witnesses, the people that we drove around and tried to talk to. A congressional subpoena would go a lot farther than a knock on the door, by the way. You get a lot more out of this story. There were so many people involved in this. You have chefs, you have pilots, you have chauffeurs. This is a massive sex trafficking operation over multiple properties, over multiple states, including 1,000 victims. This should not be that hard to do. I mean, I could put this investigation together, frankly, if I had subpoena power. I have done the investigation as far as I can without subpoena power as a journalist, right? Mm-hmm. But if you had subpoena power and you wanted to use it honestly, I mean, the story could be blown open. Blown open.
It could be, but will it? Under these circumstances, when Donald Trump is in control of every lever of government, the executive branch, the legislative branch, he's just completely sidelined them, and the judiciary, the judicial branch, he owns them too. But
God, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I don't want to keep you. I just wanted to. I was
right.
like, we gotta get her back just so she can respond. Thank you.
Yeah. No. I'm glad that you called me back because it's just so nuts. Now I gotta have a headache.
Thank you, Tara. All right. Tell her to please come on. Okay, we'd love to have her.
Yeah,
okay?
guys, check out my channel at Tara Palmeri. I'm updating every day. Okay. Bye. All right. Thanks for listening to the Tara Palmeri Show. If you want to support me in my journalism, go to tarapalmeri.com. That's TARAPALMERI.com. You can sign up for my newsletter, The Red Letter. If you become a paid subscriber, you can help support my independent journalism and get all of my exclusive reporting straight to your inbox. You can also just subscribe, rate this on iTunes, Spotify, share it with your friends. That keeps me going too. Leave comments, good ones, nice reviews, please. And I want to thank my team. I want to thank my producer, Eric Abenate, and the rest of the Tara Palmeri team. Adam Stewart on the thumbnails, Sarah Carney handling the social media, plus Abby Baker and Luke Radel, who handle social media research and our weekly Tara Palmeri Show quiz, which you can find at tarapalmeri.com. Thanks again for being a part of this community. I'll be back soon with more exclusive reports and conversations. Please let me know what you want to hear. Leave it in the comments below. Talk soon.